within Europe, different periods how they were writing. It's not consistent. It went into Europe, then they start calling this guy as the originator of number system, and that's why they start saying Arabic number. And then there is this Leonardo Fibonacci, who was basically a merchant from Italy, and he was positioned in Africa, and then he realized Indian system is better because it's very easy to calculate. Arithmetic is very fast. All other people, when they were counting a linear system. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, but Indians started thinking about cyclical system, cycle. We can explain using Kannada numerals why 3 is written like this, 3. And moreover, you can see 3 and 6, they are related, okay. And 5 is half of full moon day, 0, because that is why it is full half reversed. For example, 1 and 2, okay, 1 and 2 is basically what? You cut 0 into half. The first part is 1, second part is 2. And that is how we write even in Kannada even today. Thank you, Pragna. So she has introduced me, and I will not take more time about me. Let us start with the topic. Then if there is anything, we will take it up in the Q&A. So my first talk is on the numbers. So numbers, as you know, we start from our pre-nursery. So what's big deal? So we know the numbers. So they are 1 to 9, 0, everything. There is a history, and that is also told to everybody. But what is not told, why we write, for example, 1 like this, why we write 2 like this, what is the reason? Okay, so this question was not properly answered, and this is the slide thrown at people. Okay, so the reason is, if you really look at it, there is for example 3, there are 3 angles, and so it is 3. So 3 is written because of 3 angles. 9 has 9 angles. But just look carefully, is that sense, is that the way we write 9? We don't. So it is just made up just to show that to have a 9 angles. That is not the way it has come, because if you really see, Indians have invented the numbers, but maths has progressed after numbers. So angle should be coming after numbers. So angle should not be the reason to get the numbers. So these angles are not the answer to the way we get the numbers. And this is just thrown at people. So nobody asks further questions. Okay. So I am going to talk about it. So I will take you through the history, because it's to set the context, because some of the things what I explain later, the information is required, and then I will purely explain how it has come. Okay. So the numbers, the evidence starts 30,000 years back, when we have a bone in Czech Republic where they have 55 tally marks. So we know that is the oldest evidence we have. And ancient civilizations, everywhere we find the numbers usage. So obviously you can think about it logically, from science, how it would have started. So you have 10 fingers. So people start counting with the 10 fingers, identifying each with one numbers. So people can go up to 10 easily. So this is nothing great invention. It comes as an intuition, everybody's followed. So all religions followed. And there are different way, even people use like horizontally, vertically. So the representation of hand naturally should have formed into numbers. So so single hand is fine, but if you really see these civilizations, they were hunter gatherers. So most of the time they had something in their hand. Okay, so when they have something in their hand, in one hand, they cannot represent all the numbers. When they cannot represent all the numbers, they have to use only one hand. Okay, because this is very, very ancient. We don't know whether language had originated at the time, but something they should be using to identify. Okay, so they could be using sign languages, but so they have invented, so next level they have invented something like this to indicate all the 10 new numbers through single hand. So it's, or maybe counting, so 1 2 3 4 up to that is possible. Okay, so even this is used even now for counting purpose. Yeah, so we see again like 5000 years the Sumerians started recording. Okay, so one is counting, but for your practical usage it has to be in a recorded format. And what they have done, they have used from single-handed, instead of using a finger, they started using the ribs. Okay, whatever the small things are there, segments. So these segments they can count up to 12. Okay, so 12 and one hand, and another we have 5. So then from this way they can go up to 60, from 10 to 60. And what we see in the recording format also, they have not complicated things. They have been used only simple, very simple symbol. One symbol, for example, 1 is something like a one bud. Okay, a flower bud, and then you multiply it. So you want to write 2, then you write 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and you know, when they go up to 10, okay, because still people were using 10 because of the 10 fingers, they have given a new symbol, because from 10 there was a big block, I mean, to go further. So that's where they have the same, they doesn't go to counting of 12, they still use 10, but they use this mechanism. So we know up to 60, it's called hexadecimal system. It's a Sumerian invention. And then for recording purpose, so some material is required. So bone was used first. Then we see on caves, people are writing this counting system. So there was no number, they were still using the symbolic representation. And on the Sumerian tablets, mud tablets, we can see those very clearly, the same pattern of numbers. They are not complicated, simple. And then we see next Romans using wood, and they were using numbers in a one counter kind of thing, and then they were attaching counters together to derive a number. Okay, so before we understand anything, we need to go back to the very ancient times. And what we see is, as you know, what are the ancient civilizations that were available? One was from this Sumerians. Another one we can see from Egypt. Another one we can also consider Chinese, and in South America we can see Mayans. So these are pretty old, we know some of the dates. So we need to look from everybody, how is there a pattern in their thinking or logic, how they have come to their numbers, because these were probably very ancient, because when you have killed an animal, to count the number of animals you have killed, so you need some counting. So everybody need not have to wait for some invention to have somewhere, so they would have gone ahead independently. So we see that pattern. So for example, in you see here again 1 2 3 4 similar simple number system lines, and then again you see 10, they are giving a symbol, and then they are jumping. So they were combining 10, because after one round of fingers are over, they are again repeating. So same thing in Greek. The Greek inherited from Egypt. So there you can see 1 2 and 3 4, everything is written. So there is another invention probably they have done to cut down 5 6 7 and 8 9, writing more lines. So they have cut down. So there is a one jump. And then Chinese, as you know, they prefer to give one symbol for everything. So again here what we see is, again they are writing 1 2 3 again with lines, but then from 4 onwards they start giving a different symbols. Here Sumerians, I told you, like they have only 2 symbols. And then next level we comes to Romans, and Romans inherits from Greek, and they have 1 5 10, then 50 100. So similar. So some 5-6 digits, 5-6 notations and combinations of that. So it was simple civilization, and we know till they are using all these things, their civilization is also very simple. It was not complicated. So we cannot bring in any new or different kind of technology, because this acts as a poison pill. Because suddenly when when still they were using, we start talking about very complicated angles. Then they were talking about if they are talking about some solar system, it's not possible, because if they cannot even break this simple calculation or arithmetic, they cannot go to that higher level. So that's a logic we can derive. So Mayans, again what we see is okay, 0 is in this picture they have added. So here again you see they are basically again fingers. So instead of finger they are putting on dot. So when you have 4 fingers, they are representing through 4 dots, and then 5, one hand, they are making a line, and so it continues up to digit 20. So nothing great. Everybody is following a similar structure, similar pattern. So what is missing here till now? India is missing. Of all the civilization, India is missing. So these people are thinking in one direction, and what was India thinking for this perspective? So that's where we need to see. So all these people, you see, they are all small societies, very few people, fewer needs, numbers needed were small, the calculations needed were simple. As long as human remain primitive, they can manage with this. So I mean, at a time probably nobody kills 60 animals, may not be required. So 60 itself they can do with the most of the transaction, day-to-day activities. They don't talk about any big numbers beyond this. Okay, so we come to India. Now what is happening in India? So we know Europeans, now what the history tells us is this is the number, European numbers, and then they say this is Arabic numbers. From Arabic numbers we got into European numbers, and if you really see, there are 2 versions in Arabic, okay, and then they map it to our Devanagari. And another example, in Tamil we see a different notations altogether. So in India it's not like the other civilizations, it is not one single format. Already we see Tamil different, Devanagari different, and we don't know why same numbers are not used in Arabic. So we say it's Hindu-Arabic, then why they are using different notations here, okay. So but what the history tells is it is derived from India. So and of all the civilization, Indian numbers were superior, so it was adopted, and there ends the story of history of numbers, okay. And why do we need to bother about it? Why not we buy it? Why not we stop and buy this argument and close the chapter? See, it's not the question of numbers alone. Today the whole maths is used to explain science, okay. So the whole very big things are modeled on mathematics, and through maths we are explaining. And what is the foundation of maths? Numbers. So if we don't even understand the numbers, what are we trying to do? We don't understand the foundation, but we are explaining the top floor. And second thing, these numbers are very primitive. They are coming from very early phases, and if we start thinking why they have come, how they have come, then we know what is their thought process, and is there a problem, why did they arrive at this solution, and why, and see the all over world, all civilization, Indian numbers have become very good. So how it has become very good? Things will not become very good suddenly. So there must be some cycles where you have done something wrong, and then you improve, and then you come to some system. Because this is what we are talking about is basically a very sophisticated thing. So what process is involved? What are the cycles they have undergone? Why they came to this system? Because you saw already Sumerians have optimized to go for simple, very simple, just 2 symbols, 1 and 10. That's all, nothing else. It's already a very simple system. When things are very simple, why do we need to go for writing 10 digits, 10 different symbols? Because there is another simple system, why do we need to go for this? So all these questions we need to ask, because it is going to unravel our culture, our history, our problems, and because this is the very India was the only country which was thinking differently from all other civilizations. That is what we need to understand, because why India took the leadership position. Okay, so what were we doing differently? And that's what, once we understand all these background factors, then probably we can see, because history repeats itself, or if you want to do that same algorithm or analogy, we can think about it. Okay, so do we have some strength here? So these are the questions. That is why we need to study this factor and we need to explain it, and there should be a motivation, because there is a learning here for our kids. And it also, because this is one of the factor, very big numbers are very big, because if numbers were not invented or not like this, then probably we will be still using the Romans, and we were simply doing arithmetic, not going anywhere. So this is a very big contribution, and something to be feel proud of. So if the whole world doesn't care about the history further, we Indians has to understand, and we should be able to answer it, because if tomorrow somebody can ask it. Okay, so from where did it all start? So the earliest evidence what we have is our Vedas. So let us start looking in the Vedas. What the Vedas, do they have numbers? What numbers they have? So if I look at it, for example, Rig Veda 7, they clearly says Ekam and Vimshatim. So Vimshati means 20, 1 and 20. So 20 had a different already a number. 1 is different. What are those number? Whatever they have defined, we are still following it. So in Rig Veda itself, whatever was invented, we are following the same number. We have not changed the definition of the digits, the nomenclature of the digits. So by this time, whatever is the Rig Vedic time, I don't want to argue on what is the Rig Vedic time, but Rig Vedic time already our number system had evolved. Okay, and we can see so many examples, like Dasha is already there, so we use the same number system. And I am giving all the for example, I am giving all the quotations, references, so anybody can go and check, they are there. And then here Rig Vedic numbers, for example, like 300. Okay, so this 300 number, when we see 300, we already know they were also using decimal system already. Okay, 3 into 100. And then we see some 63 defining the Maruts. So up to 100, 1 to 100, it was counting up to 10 and then up to 100. The way we are using was already present in the Rig Veda. This is the proof. So when we are going to go back in the history, we know all by Rig Veda already all these things are already existing. Then interesting thing, 33 repeats many times. What is 33? So in Rig Vedic times, 33 was the god. Okay, in Rig Veda what they say is Brahma is the god, and then they invent some demigod, or to assist him they invent 33 gods. Okay, so this 33 gods is basically 12 Adityas. Basically they are the versions of sun, and then 11 Rudras, 2 Ashwins, and then 8 Vasus. So this is very clear, 33 how it is coming. And then they also, for Vedic reference, 214 says 100 castles destroyed. Okay, so 100 castles means 100 cities. So that was already a very big battle to destroy 100 cities. Indra destroys that. At various places, same things repeats. And interestingly, at Rig Veda times, we cross 100. All the other religions were using 60, 50, 100. And we talk about 100,000, we talk about 60,000. So these are very big numbers in Rig Vedic times. And also look at it, 100,000 people killed by Indra. It's very difficult to imagine also. 100,000 people killing means it's a huge battle. Even exaggerated also. For example, 500 people killed, it should be 5,000, not 1 lakh. Okay, so they could think at to that higher level. That's all it shows. And then yeah, there are, for example, important things like yeah, 1 lakh is coming here, And I think next slide I have some more interesting thing. Here they say we know 10 clearly because the battle of 10 kings, that is Dasharatha Yagna, that is what it is called, that is very famous in Rigveda, and there the 10 comes, and then 1000 pillar hall they refer. 1000 pillar hall is very big, is what we are talking about. So the way the Western people give us a picture like Rigvedic people were living in huts, then why 1000 pillar hall is coming?
It has only 5-6.
Huh?
This hall has only 5-6.
Whatever it is, 1000, they can forget about whether they had or not. They were able to think that itself is a very big matter. 1000 pillar hall. And then again, this shloka says 100 old ship. Okay, 100 oar ship means 100 people has to be rowing the boat. What is the size of the boat? Okay, so the way the picture Western have given us the picture is totally different than what is existing in the Rigveda. Okay, forget about now all those things, but we need to look at these numbers. All numbers are defined in Veda itself. And then we have, it's not just in Rigveda, we have Yajurveda, and in Yajurveda we have Sri Rudram, it's very popular, and that comes in Krishna Yajurveda, Taittiriya Samhita. It has two parts, Rudra and Chamaka. So Rudra talks about the Lord Rudra, and basically its names to pray for him. And then Chamaka is basically requesting to fulfill wishes. Okay, so these are the two things. They are 4.5 and 4.7. At the end of it we see, this is the shloka, and where they say, very surprising, they only pray for numbers, and the numbers are in this order 1, 3, 5, 7. They are all completely odd number series, and then they start with even number 4, 8, 12. Numbers are missing, we don't know what it is, and people there are various interpretations in many this Vedic interpretations lot of authors have given, and they tell what means 1. For example, when 11 comes, it's 11 Rudras, all these things they give, but we don't know exactly. Okay, because only numbers are given. Okay, and why this sequence? Okay, one is odd numbers, we understand, but even is not, it's not even series because it doesn't starts from 2, 6 is not there. Okay, so it's not really a correct series, but it goes up to 48. Okay, but we know we can.
These are all multiples of 4.
These are all multiples of 4, but why 4? Okay, and then when odd numbers are given, immediately following that why the followed by 4 series. But the important thing is at Vedic times they also knew this series. That is what is important. Now nobody highlights all these things. Okay. Then next comes in Shukla Yajurveda 17.2, and here this is this is a translation. Basically this is in Hindi, not in Devanagari. This is but what they talk about is power of 10. They go up to 10 to the power of 12. We are talking about very big number. Okay, why they went for these numbers? What is the requirement? And why Indians face this requirement that was not existing in any other religion? This is something we need to see. This is some trigger points we need to question. Okay, when we start questioning, you may give, one person may give one answer, another person may give another answer, another person may give another answer. Then we need to see the points and try to fit in what is the best logic. Okay. And then comes the famous Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This is Purnamada Purnamidam shloka, and this shloka, what it brings, it doesn't specify infinity, but at the end what it says, you have some quantity, you go on removing things, but the quantity remains. Okay, so if the quantity has to remain, it means it's infinity. Otherwise something I remove, for example I have 10 liters of water, I remove 1 liter of water, then it should become 9, reduced quantity. They are talking about non-reduced quantity. Of course they are talking about a concept of God here. So God is infinite, so that's what the idea is. So God is full, you remove anything from him, still full God. Okay, because if God reduces for example I remove some 1% of power, will God become 99%? then it is not idealistic. Okay, so these arguments were happening and they were thinking about God must be idealistic, so it must be full. Even if I remove something, he must be full. For example, we have Krishna was reincarnation born. So does 5% God was on earth? So was the God 95% there? It cannot be, because he has to be full 100%. If that is 100%, and then what is this 5%? So this ideological problem comes. Then how do they explain? So that is where comes the question of definition of infinity. Why they were going to big numbers is also we see clearly in Hinduism first, because this level of deep thoughts discussions were happening. Okay, so and this infinity was not coming from number perspective, but from God's discussions or whatever they were trying to define. Then comes our Jains, Buddhist. They wanted to define we are not less. Okay, so they again the God has to be infinite. So then to explain what is infinite, it's very difficult, because again what is the number? What will be equal? What is can you give? Because people cannot comprehend. We know infinity today because we study maths, but these are primitive people. How do you explain infinity? Okay, so God they could understand probably, but what is infinity? So they wanted to give an approximation by saying big number. What is that big number? Then if you define some number, you will become encapsulated or you will be bordered into that. They don't want that. Again, next guy comes and defines even higher number, then even higher number. So that's way they started defining numbers. And first the way they could define is give a name for a number, bigger number. And then what it is explained in slokas, 10 to the power 54, 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 24, something like that. And they have three concepts. One is countable, another is countable but infinite, and then endless and non-countable. Endless and non-countable refers to our infinity, concept of infinity. And then countable but infinite is some concept, like for example like Rama, he was an incarnation but he died. Okay, so it's something like that. It has a some purpose, but it's big but it has some purpose. And where is it coming, the references? So the references I am giving, this is explained in a book, the same thing. So in Buddhist Lalita Vistara, they define, as I explained you, they were going to 10 to the power of 53, and this is I already explained in our Yajurveda. They were going up to 10 to the power of 12, and then it was extended to 10 to the power of 19. They were broadening the numbers. And then comes concept of yuga concept. Again they started defining, as I said, okay, limitation. So what number, so you need to define. So they were all very big numbers. So the big numbers comes not because of your day-to-day transaction, okay, but because of this religious discussion. There is no practical usage otherwise, because they couldn't able to map it or identify with any specific item, materialistic items. Okay, so what is this is little bit of history, but what is the features of Indian number? Okay, one is we see decimal system, and second is very very important, that is placeholder system. This is where our Indian system and all other cultural whatever they followed, they also followed decimal system. I showed you, because decimal system comes because of our 10 fingers, but placeholder system is very unique. It comes from India. Okay, so that is what I am going to explain why we came to this placeholder system, because numbers is not the biggest contribution from India. This placeholder system means this is unit, this is 10, this is 100. So that is something out of the box thinking. And then it is simplest form of writing again. Not why, I mean, if you ask some artist, they will give you different they can give you fantastic beautiful pictures. Why they are not used? Because for repetition, doing very quick transactions, it has to be very simple. So our number system is very efficient and effective also. and that is why it was adopted all over the world without questions. Because today, you just think about it, I say something, it is very difficult to convince people, and propagating our number system in those old ages, and why would the others buy it? Okay, unless otherwise there is a huge benefit, then people will adopt it, because otherwise there is a penalty. If you don't use it, there is a penalty, so they will obviously come to this. So that is the meaning of effective and efficient. When your system, when your things are very effective and efficient, that is something like we have in maths a concept called global minimum and global maximum. So global minimum is the very minimum point, optimal point. So this is the optimal point, that is why everybody adopted it. Another important question comes here. Okay, the number system are effective and efficient, but why do we need to use Indian numbers? They had their own notations. Okay, why not use it? What is the problem? What is the problem? I mean, we need to see that. Okay, I am adapting because people are already used to some writing. For example, I write in Tamil. Okay, when I want to write something, I can write in Tamil letters, because you see, when people want to type in now in whatever mobile, they prefer to use their language. Same thing, you type in English, for example, English typing is easy, typewriter, the facilities are easy. You type your language in using English alphabets. That's what many times they do. So here also we should logically expect those people should be using their own notations and not Indian notations. But that is not the way we see. Today we see they have adopted Indian system only. So there must be some strong reason to adopt these numbers the way it is written. And it's very huge, a lot of years, okay, since lot of years we are using it. No more innovation, because that is the best, that's all, that's the answer. Okay, so this is I am coming up answers, because this is again my questions, so I have to find out some answer. Whatever answers I found, I am trying to explain here. And so this slide, the data is coming from in Karnataka. We have something called Karnataka Itihasa Academy. They are basically an organization of historians, and what they have done, they have published lot of things of inscriptions and how the letters have moved from one age to another age. Similarly, they have published for numbers also. Data they published, nobody analyzed. So here I am presenting it. I will explain. So here is our English numerals. The second column shows 3rd BC. This is how Ashoka has used in his inscriptions. Okay. So basically this explains the history, how the numbers evolved within India. Okay, this is the data. Then this is third one is Shatavahana period, and this is the numbers we can see in the inscription at 2nd century. Okay, these are the dates which our current history has accepted. Okay, so that dates we will not get into the discussion, but let us take it for right now. These are the dates. Then we have Kadamba period, then we have Chalukya period, then we have Rashtrakuta period, then we have Kalyana Chalukya period, then we have Hoysala period at 12 AD, then Vijayanagara period, then Mysore, very recent 18th century AD, and then we see today how it is written in Kannada. Okay, because here I see nearly 3rd century BC and 21st AD. Okay, that's nearly about more than 2000 years. Okay, and just look at the number 1, nothing has changed. Okay, and we write in Kannada exactly like it was 2000 years back. Okay, and only in Kannada we write like this. Now again within India people don't follow these numerals. And
Telugu also?
Telugu similar. Telugu is basically a branch of Kannada, so some numerals are same, but closest or ancient to Karnataka is basically usually Karnataka things are compared with Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu we have a totally different numbers followed. So, but only in Kannada we have these numbers. This is one set of data. Okay, I will come back to this slide later. Then I have this slide. Okay. So when I was looking at it, there was one book in Kannada, and that is called Siribu Valaya. That's a book. It's 50 years back it's published. There's a lot of controversy on the book. Okay, so what is that book? Basically it's a Jain book, and they have written the whole book in numbers. There is no letters. Okay, the stories are written in numbers. It's the maybe in the world is the only book where they have used numbers to express. It's all.
What they mean, sir?
There is. I will tell you. Maybe I will deviate. It will deviate. And not every pages are found, and some pages are found. There is a lot of discussion at very top level also to research on this all these things, but it's controversial. Let us not go into that. But in that book, they have published this. Okay, the Kannada numbers. This number, the way it is published on top, was not there in any of the earlier the columns I showed. 2000 plus history also. This is not there. Okay. And these people, the Siribu Valaya book is called, they again Jains, and they try to give very old dates, claims, it's claims, so we don't know. And the thing is, this book, you can read it in different ways because it is like a matrix, and you can read in columns, you can read in rows. The book itself claims you can that book you can interpret in 33 or maybe 100 languages. So one you can read like a Kannada, another row if you read it will become like Sanskrit text. Okay, something like that. And there is a, you will get it into a sequence, and then sequence you need to interpret. Okay, so but important is this. Okay, we need to understand how each and every number it is written here. Okay, the first is in Kannada. What it says is Kuilu. Kuilu means today what Kuilu is explained is basically when you cut your crop. Okay, that is Kuilu, beginning. Okay, so Kuilu means beginning, and then we have numbers. The second row is expressed in our existing fashion. So again you see they are all very closely matching. Okay, closely matching. And then below we have the numbers. This is the numbers which has been derived from Bakshali script in northern India, and there is a beautiful video from Oxford, and it is ascribed to 4th to 5th century. Okay, so here also you can see 1 is matching with Kannada 1. This is in North India. Okay, this is Karnataka. You can see 3. Okay, 3 and 3, and then you can see, for example, 0 they are representing like this. Some other numbers they have changed. Okay, but the thing is, this is another set of data. Now we need to connect the dots. Okay, in Kannada, why they were using this? See, the question is very primitive. Why the 2 is written like this? Why 3 is written like this? Because today our new number, English number 3 has come very similar. So if we go through these numbers, we may not able to go back to the origin. So these numbers have transformed over a period of time. So this is the earliest reference we are getting. Again, similarity in the way it's used in Karnataka. So let us look at the logic why we have come to this number. Then we can see whether there is a link with the Kannada numerals, and then whether we can even relatively, because the dots connect, whether we can say probably it has originated from Karnataka. Okay, so that is my argument. But these are the evidences, and then I will explain the logic. Next slides I will explain the logic. So I asked the first question, why India was thinking differently? Why all other civilizations, they were similar fashion of coming to the numbers. India was the only one which is coming differently. See, this is where it explains our culture, our civilization, everything. Normally all other cultures were hunter-gatherers. Very natural. You are in a forest, hunt for an animal, kill it, eat it, over. Your problem is solved. But India, they started thinking differently. They went for agriculture. They thought, okay, hunting, gathering is anyway risky. Why kill an animal? If you can grow and eat on agriculture, let us farm. So they settled and found better food security with that, and because of that the culture flourished. That's where you started making the cities. All these things we can explain. Okay, so when you are hunter gatherer, you are bothered about only your family. So and also there are fights. So today I got a kill, but my neighbor didn't get a kill. Then for his food he will fight with you. He may steal from you. So it's all individualistic. So there is no question of coming together or making a very big society, collaboration, cooperation. All these things won't come. But when you comes to our agriculture, the dimension changes, because you cannot go and fight. For example, I have to clear the forest to get the land to cultivate. I cannot cultivate alone. I need people support. So people has to come together. That's why they are becoming societies, and then cities, everything. So what is the problem? So we need to look at the problem. Then we can, if we understand problem correctly, then the solution is very easy to explain, or to come to the solution is also very easy. So what was their problem? You want to do farming, what is their problem? They make some village, and the easiest thing what you can think of is water is required for agriculture. Where will you get the water? You will get the water near a stream or a river. So you make your habitation closer to your river. And when you have habitation closer to river, what is the problem? The problem there at that time was floods. Okay, so you don't know, you have cultivated, you have put lot of effort, suddenly flood comes, everything is gone. Then again you have to go back to your hunter gatherer or you don't know what is the alternate. So floods was very, very troublesome for them. And second is again some flood did not come, but there is a water shortage. Then what? Then you are depending on rains, because again, although you are close to a river, your farm who will bring the water? Okay, there was no channel concept or draw extensive irrigation projects to take water to all your irrigating lands. So that is not there. So then how will you get water? So problem is rain. So rain and our floods. So these two are major problem. And when you repeatedly hit, then what will you do? You will start thinking about how do I manage it? Okay, how will you manage it? Then they started observing the data. They realized floods and rains are repetitive. Okay, so when will you get the floods? Because all these people, when they settled, they were settling in our Punjab, Haryana area, and rivers they were banking on was snow-fed rivers, snows coming from Himalayas. In summer, your snow melts. Suddenly, you find floods in your locality. Okay, and so melting of snow is again repetitive, because in summer snow melts, you get the flood. So then guys started realizing, okay, now I understand, it comes after some time. What is that some time? I don't know, because I have no calendar system, I have no counting system. I don't know, I cannot benchmark 1 year or 1 month, all these things. But very simple, they realize, okay, sometime back this happened, and again sometime back. For example, maybe you have 3 kids in your family. When they were born, first kid when he was born, a flood hit. Then second kid was born, again flood hit. Third kid when he was born, there was no problem. You can easily remember. And these kids are born in some periodic period. So you know, very easy to find out that it is cyclical. Now then they start thinking, when my third kid was hit, I was fine. Why I was fine? What was the reason? Why flood did not come? But first 2 kids, there was problem. So they realized it is cyclic. All other civilizations, there was this problem never existed, because it was not their area, it was not the way, it was not their direction. So agriculture is the main root problem, and to address that root problem, they started looking out for a solution. And when you start looking out for a solution, something they found. Okay, so what they found? And these people were not dumb people, like this is one representation of Harappa city, is very, very big. Okay, very big. And you can see it's very close to river. When the flood comes, your city is flooded. It's a huge problem. And then you can see it's a multi-story structure, very well organized. Just think about it, because flooring and your roof is not so easy, because when the heavy rains comes, how the seepages are managed, why will they go for this kind of roof? Okay, They're sophisticated. You start thinking, I mean, how they arrive, even all these things are also questions. Because you invest, you have snow, rains, they go for slanted roofs, but here they have gone for our normal today's, the way we have our roofs. And so they are already sophisticated. They have made so much of system, and out of this so much of system, they have evolved all these things. For example, standard weights, all these things. So this is where it comes. All other people, when they were counting a linear system. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, number of animals killed. But Indians started thinking about cyclical system, cycle. When you get into a cycle, repetition, and that is where all things starts differing. That's why India was different, and that's why our number system what we gave is also different. So what they did, for example, here you start to identify your floods. The easy thing, they were started counting on moon. Moon is easy, is visible, and that is also cyclical. Okay, so they were trying to benchmark with, is there anything related with moon? We know now it is snow-fed river, and snow melts and we are hit. But at that time it was not snow-fed. They have to. They were thinking celestial bodies. Is there any link? So first they started counting the moon. Then they started counting sun. Okay. So you see here we have the names of all the days, and then if I start for the whole month, if I picturize it. Today is easy to picturize the phases of moon. I get this picture. So here there is a calendar of the entire year, how the moons is mapped. What is the phases of moon, and how we write in our traditional system. And do we need, for example, for this moon, to count this moon, do we need individual symbols? No, because 15 days, after 15 days, the moon repeats, and here you see the black portion totally becomes reversed in Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha, means moon is growing and moon is coming back. Okay, so you don't need different notations. What you need is basically there is a count of 14, because for 14 phases of moon, plus you have one full moon day and one no moon day. So there are 16 items, and then you need Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha, you need some differentiator, because here the way we write is Bhadrapada Shukla Chauti. So Chauti is used in both Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Chauti number is same, but then differentiator is Shukla. And then for example, Deepavali is on Kartika Amavasya. Kartika denotes the month, Amavasya denotes whatever, no moon day. So how these people went, you just look at it, see how is the full moon. Full moon is this, okay, and then Krishna symbol is a dot, okay, they have just used it. So how you write it? 14 is basically they were counting the years from their king or whoever. For example, my son is born, I start counting from that son's date of birth, and that year is what they were writing, and then Maga, and then a dot or this symbol, and then you write 4. So this is the notation which will explain this thing in a shorter form. Okay, then what we see is there are another two concepts. One is Kumbha and zero. See, zero is also we have understood very wrongly. The way we learn in our maths, it's different. So what is Kumbha? Kumbha has a very significance in our religion. We all know it's used in temples, your houses, everywhere. So basically when you are filling, earlier the merchants or whoever is bringing, what they were doing, they were trying to transfer it into pots or wherever, storage format, and then once the one pot is filled, that is Kumbha. Okay, so if you really see, there were like this bigger pots and smaller pots to transfer. Okay, there were bigger and smaller. If you go to village side, in fact I have experienced it when I was a small guy, but even if you can go to villages, you see that the way they don't use your weighing scale, they use this this kind of utensil, that's basically called liter for our oil, but they use it for measuring solid items also. And what they say is, when they count, the count starts up to 10. At 10 they say Kumbha. And then what they do is they count only the Kumbha. The problem reduces from counting instead of 100, it reduces to 10. If you count 10 Kumbhas, it is equivalent to 100. So it's basically reduction of complexity. So that is traditionally followed. Even at villages people follow it. So why I am saying this Kumbha? Because this Kumbha explains our decimal system, our placing units, tens, these places are there, no? That's what it explains. So when you finish filling 1, that is unit, then when it becomes Kumbha, Kumbhas are basically represented in the second place. That is where you jump from 1 to 10. So 10 to 100, maybe 10 Kumbhas, you put it in one cart, you count the carts, that is the third place. So that's how we get into 100, decimal, 100, tens, units, like that. And then again 0. So the problem is, what is problem with 0? Actually there are 2 0. In the way Indians were thought at that time are 2. One is 0 behind the number 1. That is the beginning. 0, 1. Okay. Then the number what we raise next to 10. 1 next to 0. That is 10. That is Kumbha. And the beginning 0 is represented with this dot, not 0. This 0 is used because of Kumbha. That is full moon. Full moon is basically a Kumbha. And then this beginning is dot because they were counting from Amavasya. So Amavasya was the beginning, and to represent Amavasya is this. So it's very intuitive, very natural. Then yeah, so this is what already I explained. I skipped this. So there is another problem. See, all these people, when other civilizations, they were thinking a number line. What is 0? Somewhere it has to begin. Where is beginning? And if you start 0, then again people can ask before 0 what was it? For example, I say from when my child was born is 0. Before that what was there? So already your negative number starts coming and it's very complex. But Indians, they went for cyclical, and once you say this is the center, is the beginning, you don't, I mean complexity don't come. What is behind that? You are getting? So this, I say this is dot, this is dot, and then there is a cycle, cycles and cycles. So only positive numbers, you think only about positive numbers. This is basically an abstraction. So yeah, this is I'll briefly explain the history. So there is a guy called Al-Khwarizmi. He was a Arab guy who has translated our number system, and there is the way we write 0, places of 10, places of 100, these are all basically, it's called algorithm. Algorithm word comes from this Al-Khwarizmi. Okay. So and then there is a description how we translated into Europe, how it went into Europe, how they start calling this guy as the originator of number system, and that's why they start saying Arabic number. And then there is this Leonardo Fibonacci, who was basically a merchant from Italy, and he was positioned in Africa, and then he realized Indian system is better because it's very easy to calculate, arithmetic is very fast. So the Roman numbers are not so good. So then he realized because of the efficiency factor, we should start adapting to that, and people start adapting it. And there is a Hindu article, paper article by C.K. Raju, and he has explained it beautifully, all these things. This you can go through. Okay, so this is the numbers evolution from Brahmi to Indian to Sanskrit to all these things. So again you see there is no similar number similarly copied. Okay, they were confused, totally confused. They don't know how to write, why to write, because this logic is not known to anybody. So they know these numbers are very efficient, very good, and even people were so they were thinking there's some magic behind it. So they should write it properly. For example, now you write Om symbol or swastik. Can I write right swastik or left swastik? Which is correct? If I write wrongly, what will happen? So all these problems are there. So they were also.
It was Nazis in Germany.
Whatever. But the thing is, there is a fear factor of not writing it properly, because when you associate some mystery to these numbers, this problem comes. So again 0, they had a problem because they were not understanding. They heard stories of beginning Amavasya and all. They were very hesitant to use it. So Europeans were ready to use other numbers but not 0. They first adopted all the numbers but not 0, because they don't know what it is. And this magic of add 10, so if you add 1 next to 1, 10 is 1 next to that you write 0. Then if I write simply another 0, it becomes 100. Value is raised by 10 times. Why it will happen like that? So they were not able to understand all this logic. They were confused. And again they invented this abacus. Abacus is basically a method for Roman things. You don't need this abacus for using Indian numbers and calculate. But they were trying so many things. See, all these things, again there is another book where they have written how within Europe, different periods, how they were writing. It's not consistent. So they were writing some numbers from Arabic. Then somebody came to India and they said that is not the way Indians write. Then the right way is this. So they started changing it. Some places they start changing it, but some people continue it with old style. So totally we can see full it's clear they were not able to understand it. And they were very fearful to use it. It took nearly 5 centuries for them to realize, okay, there is benefit, this is the way to use it, let us use it. There is no problem. Numbers, there is no mystery behind it, we can use it for normal transaction. So these are the notations. So there are so many notations for a single number. You can see for everything there is no consistency. And so as I said, another question I asked, why we should write 3 like this only? They were not also sure. They were writing in different patterns, but they know it is not correct. They fall back to Indians. And you can see 0. You can see this. I showed you that the way our Kannada numeral started with the Kuilu, the beginning. So this is the same thing they were using for 0. Okay. They were confused. So even today Europe has confused. That's why we write beginning 0 and the decimal 0. Same 0, because they didn't understand the concept of Amavasya and full moon. So that notations they have confused. So you can see here the numbers they have used, but not 0. 0 was empty. Okay. They were hesitant to use numbers. Okay, so I have written a little bit more in detail. So my argument is, finally concluding argument is this. We see in Kannada numerals, so I will go back to that slide just a minute to conclude our Kannada numerals. So here all the numerals what you see is basically a combination of the moon. How you write first day of moon, basically this one. Okay. So if you really go back, so here what you are doing, you are showing increasing phases of moon. First day, second day, third day. Okay. So this is the way. So the moon is, this is how it is represented. And they were writing like this for full 4, 5, 6, but then it is very difficult to represent. So they optimized, and when they optimized using the same curves to represent all the numbers. Okay. So we can explain using Kannada numerals why 3 is written like this 3. And moreover you can see 3 and 6, they are related. Okay. And 5 is half of full moon day, 0. Because that is why it is full half reversed. So we can explain why 5 is written like this, 6 is written like this, 7 is written like this. They were using, instead of complicating, they were using the symbol of 1. For example, 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2 is basically what? You cut 0 into half. The first part is 1, second part is 2. And that is how we write even in Kannada even today. Okay. So using Kannada numerals, I can explain why the numbers are written and how it has come. So now I can have one answer, a better answer than the first picture I showed, the number of angles. So how Indians have come? Indians have come with logic, with reason. It is not some random number, suddenly it has popped up, not some numerology. At that time something suddenly somebody said let us use this. No, it is not like that. There is a reason behind why they have come, and they have come to this conclusion. That's why it is effective, efficient, and how we came to the decimal places. So all the advantages of our Indian system, I can see all the proofs here for everything. Decimal system 0, how we write, why we write beginning 0 number, dot, everything we can explain. So this is one of the explanation. I saw this is missing in our history, and I can correlate it. I can see that it is still used in Karnataka. So probably it should have originated from Karnataka. So that's where I conclude my argument.
Thank you.
Like this. Now, we should start increasingly using the word Hindu rather than Indian, because Indian includes much more now. So therefore, the origin of all these things have a Hindu origin. They are not Indian origin. Indian is only territorial, but Hindu is much more than Hindu. So therefore, it would be appropriate if we start consciously using Hindu in place of Indian when we are talking of these things.
Okay.
This is one, is an observation.
Okay, sure.
The second one is the notations are representation of numbers, has close connection with the development of the script. So what you have explained may be true, but then various scripts, most of the scripts have come out of Brahmi, and then so therefore whether this would really explain how the numbers were visualized, whether if that happened only, let's say, in Kannada, Telugu or that region, what about the North Indian, Eastern Indian? So whether this gives a complete picture, or it only gives one aspect of the total picture.
Okay, I can answer that.
Yeah. Then the third one is the cyclical nature that you have explained, but that cyclical nature has been there in every civilization throughout the world. Why is it that only because of the cyclical nature we have come out with this kind of thing? That doesn't explain much of this one. There is much more than the cyclical nature of this one. How Hindus have visualized the cyclical nature, it is not just from floods or from rains or from these kind of things. Is there something much more? Because this is at a very, very, don't take offense, at a primitive level explanation.
Okay. Okay, I will answer that. See, first of all, the whole outside world, they were using in their history books, school books also, Arabic numerals. There was no Hindu-Indian connection at all. Okay, so it is not question of, for example, we have a lot of things in history now. We are unable to convince our government to correct it. Okay, but here this was including foreign governments. It is even more difficult to convince them. But then when things started coming out, okay, then they realized because there was awareness among the public, then they cannot go on giving a different explanation. Now, more or less all over the world, it is written as Hindu-Arabic. So, Hindu was come because of awareness among public. So, when we create awareness among this, then it becomes probably, I want it to be called as Hindu numbers. No, there is no concept of Arabic, right? For example, I get some car from Japan. For example, my Apple phone, maybe it's manufactured in China, but it's originated from US. Do I call as made in China or US? No, right? So it's manufactured in China, but it's fully attributed to US. Why Indian invention is attributed to Arabs? They are also saying they completely acknowledge it is from India. There is no reason to use Arabic at all. Okay. And second question, for word Hindu, again there is a lot of controversy, because Hindu is not a word given by ourselves. We never used Hindu. There is no proof. The earliest proof for the word Hindu comes in Raja Tarangini, that is from Kashmir history, where he uses Hindu. Okay, but that is in 12th century. But I can show you in this slide also already there. The Christians were using their book called Indo. The name of the book, the Arabs write as Hind, book of Hind. And when it is converted to Christians in 12th century, I am talking about 12th century, they are talking about Indo. So the word India was also coming from 12th century, when the word Hindu, what proof we can give, is also from 12th century. Okay, so Hindu is not a word from India at all. Okay.
My point was...
No, I agree. So we should use it, completely agree.
My point was
Okay.
different to the extent.
Sure. I'm little confused about the numbers here. 3rd century BC, in one slide you mentioned is the origin, then you also mentioned the Brahmi script. And then we have the Rig Veda. Yeah, it says 3rd century BC and the origin, first numbers. Is that correct? How it
3rd century BC is, we know Ashoka is 350 BC, right? That's why we write like this.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. But if the Rig Veda is talking about 10 to the power of 19, obviously they were writing something or no, or they were just
See,
talking.
the problem is we have no records. See, we know the earliest records is in Indus Valley civilization. They have written, so we know there was script. Okay, Indus Valley civilization is also right now. People have decoded it and they said it is basically Brahmi. Similar like Brahmi is a local colloquial version of Sanskrit only.
Yeah.
Because the word, for example, Vimshat, we see that is same as Vimshat today even in Sanskrit.
Okay.
That's in Rig Veda. But the problem is Rig Veda, it's all words, right? There is no numbers. So we cannot say how Rigvedic people were writing, unless otherwise we can decode Indus Valley civilization and attribute something as numbers. There again, whatever is decoded, they are all words, not numbers. You may get 20, but 20 how they were writing, we don't know. And I think he has another question. I because of the time limit, I skipped it about the cyclic nature. You asked an important question. See, the point is they did not use this cyclic thing for numbers. Okay, numbers, normal people, I think I have explained it in slides also. Normal people were using like other civilization only. They were using counting from 1 to 10 and they were all linear only. But some people started thinking about agriculture. They started looking at cyclic level, and that's how even our astronomy developed. And they developed for not from 1 to 10, because it was 15, so it is basically base 15. Okay, so they were using from 1 to 15, and then when writing came, they wanted to harmonize. They applied the principle of that into the decimal system. So that's how it became from actually if you see, the notations are there up to 15, not just 10. I have shown here 9 because they started mapping into the up to the 9, and then they went to 0 as Kumbh. Kumbh I already explained. So Kumbh is basically full moon. The same notation they copied, and that's how it became 1 to 10. And from 10 onwards, it's a repetition, because that's how we thought about its repetition. It's a cyclical thing, and that's why we went into that algorithm, whatever we call as algorithm, our decimal calculation algorithm. For example, I add 8 plus something and then there is a carryover. So that is an algorithm, and that is invention of Indians. Nobody else thought like that. And all those things came because of our counting moon, and then it also originated in developing calendar system. And then calendar system is exactly 30, and then 30 repeats, for example 12 months, and then although 365 days they know, then for 5 days they were intercalary days they were adding and correcting it, but it was cyclical. Okay. Maybe if you are not satisfied, I will answer it later.
Just one thing on cyclical. Is monsoon the reason on cyclical? Because I think only India is the country where monsoon is a yearly phenomenon for rain. I don't think it happens anywhere else. So maybe that can explain the cyclical part. The other thing is in number system, like you said, the number system, place system. So does India have any other system like second place after 9 or second place after 12? Like we can have 12 different characters for 12 numbers and then repeat.
That's what I understand. That is why I showed you.
9 or 12 or
no, none of it, none of the civilizations went for more than 10. They did not count 11 and 12 with different symbols.
So Mayans had number 13.
No, 12 up to 12. See, they were cutting at 5. See, 5 there is we see a symbol. 10 we see a symbol. That is very, because you say 5, you become one full hand. So you get a symbol. They were trying to consolidate. Again 10 they were consolidating. Okay, they did not go because it was intuitive and natural. That's why we came to see. Actually, in our maths, you don't have to do decimal only. You can go for hexadecimal system. Hexadecimal is even more optimal actually, but it is not intuitive. It is very difficult for us to understand. If you go, our computers works with bits of 8 and then 16 digits. So our computers actually work like hexadecimal, and they say binary, but strictly speaking, when you go really design your chip, basically they are hexadecimal system. Hexadecimal is more optimal than decimal, but we go for decimal because of our intuitive, our hands of 10. Okay, it's not just in India. As I said, Indians actually went up to 15, and then they adapted to 10 because normal people were using decimal system. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
But the Mayans actually had 13 as the base. So recently there was this argument about Yeah.
No, Mayans went up to 20. I had a slide on that.
Just recently we had this thing that year 2012 or something. That
Yeah.
That was 13 to the power 3.
Okay.
So as you told about the value place system, right?
Value. Yeah, that's what.
Place value.
Place value system. That's what I explained.
So
Huh?
place value system, you say originated in India only. Okay,
Hmm.
that means first you count from 1 to 10,
Hmm.
then treat 10 as a unit,
Hmm.
put it here, and then again you start counting from there. But treat it as a collection of 10 only, right?
Correct.
The unity should be considered a collection of 10. That means any number can be written as like infinite series on left and right both. Because on left, so every place will be multiplied by 10. On right, every place will be divided by 10.
Hmm.
Right? So it's like infinite series on both ways.
Correct.
Okay. So my main question is in European mathematics, the historical development of that, this taming the infinity was basically, you can say, a very important movement to break into this modern mathematics of calculus. Right? So do you think that this conception of infinity and taming the infinity was already existing in India?
See infinity, bringing infinity into maths, they're disconnected actually. I showed you in concept of infinity is from religious background. Okay, for Indians. It never came to thinking about maths to begin with. Okay, the problem is they ended up explaining that because of when they wanted to calculate the circle, okay, they wanted to express the circle, and the way, if you look at the history of how they came to pi, okay, they wanted a higher precision of pi, and there they ended up with infinite series. Okay, so you can go on infinite series to increase your precision, and in fact the concept of calculus came because of this infinite series. In fact, that's basically new, express it in fractions. And the concept of calculus, like I think if you look at Professor Raju, you will understand it better. He explains it. There is a difference of infinity, and infinity is really not required for our practical purposes. Getting into the infinity, you can go for up to whatever is required, approximation, and that is good enough.
One of your slide, you mentioned some data from the Lalit Vistar, okay, the Buddhist text.
Yes.
So the number goes up to 10 to the power something, I think 421.
Yeah.
The maximum number goes up to that level.
Yes.
So see, this number is so big that in modern science really doesn't care about this number, right? Modern science hardly go, you can say 10 to power 50 or something in 60s, right? When we talk about the size of universe, or even in the mole concept or Planck length. Okay, so on Planck length you go up to 10 to the power minus 34. Right? When talking about 10 to power something like 420 and still making some physical sense out of it, how is that possible if you're not talking about infinity?
No, that's what I said. Actually, there is a story also in that slide, how they were talking. Basically, it was in a discussion, it was challenged to explain why 10 to the power of 20 only. Okay, then they went into like our yoga kind of thing, cycles and cycles. And when you explain cycle and cycle, it's basically a multiplied. Okay, so there is a 10 to the power of 20, such cycles of 20 cycles. Then it becomes 20 into 20, that's where you land up in 400. Okay, so there is an explanation of why there is a 20 cycles, and that's why 400 is coming. And moreover, all these things were conceptual thing. There is no physical requirement. There is nothing to correlate or explain what is 10 to the power of 400. Okay, so until the things evolved into the concept of, maybe in my next talk I will talk about it, like distance between Earth and Sun. Okay, Earth and Sun are beyond some star. What could be the distance? When they are able to measure something concretely, they are able to get it into a bigger numbers. Till that time, it's all conceptual. So they wanted to explain what is, for example, number of stars. What is the number of stars? Somebody ask, and you are an intelligent guy, he will tell 10 to the power of 400. You go and count. No, I'm just giving a simple reason. So that's the concept of infinity, closer to infinity. That's all.
Yes, by the way, the total number of particles in the universe, including photons, on scientific argument, they've calculated would be about 10 to the power 88. So anything beyond that just doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'm coming to that. See, when we in mathematics and science, when we break this, normality and enter into the domain which is beyond our perception,
Metaphysics.
Metaphysics. So I'm talking purely in terms of numbers. Okay, so as a physical human being, we can simply say 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers. This distance can be simply measurable or in a way understood, right? But if somebody says 3 light years or 300 light years, certainly that is not, we are not able to comprehend how big that distance is. But still science talks about it. And it doesn't talk about in a very hollow manner, but very concrete evidences. Okay, and when we, for example, when we talk about number of atoms in this mole or maybe 10 gram of iron, how many number of atoms are there? So we talk about 10 to the power 23 in terms of that, right? Again, the number of stars or number of galaxies. So number of galaxies are considered something around 10 to power 11, and in every galaxy there are around 10 to power 11 stars. Okay, so the proposed number is 10 to power 22. Okay, maybe we can go beyond that, but in tradition of science, there is always some some fundamental rationality involved that why we are saying this.
See, all these arguments are after 20th century. See, I am telling you, Europeans had a problem in even adopting our Hindu system till 17th century. Okay. See, these people never even till they adopt. If you use your Roman system, none of this maths is possible till 17th century. Forget about it. Okay.
So
Nothing is possible.
multiply and divide.
Nothing is possible. Just unless other you can count and do some normal accounting systems, nothing else is possible. Okay, all these talks now it makes sense because we have evolved and science has advanced. And I am talking about primitive people. Bigger number doesn't make sense. Yeah, last question. Yeah.
Sir, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
that book of numbers, and how do you make sense of that? The giant book which is written only in numbers. You mentioned that book.
Yes, yes.
Said the whole
It's already decoded
I
and.
know. How do you make sense of those numbers?
No, I mean you just Google that word, okay? That
What was the word, sir?
Siri Bhuvalaya.
Siri Bhula.
Siri Bhuvalaya. These slides will be I will be sharing with them. You can also get it. So Siri Bhuvalaya. If you Google it, you will get it. Okay. So the pages are also available. There are English books, Hindi also it is written, Kannada it is written, but it is the Kannada book. Okay. One unique, very unique book.